Hello and welcome back to OT, the podcast. We're here to talk about watches, time, and how to spend it. My name is Andy Green, and with me,
Felix Schultz.
Felix, how are you today?
I'm okay. It's a Saturday morning at the time we're recording this. I've got 2 coffees down and a third on my desk, so I'm living
Fantastic.
my best life.
3 before 9. That's impressive.
Yep. Well, just after 9. So, I'm excited about today's episode, Andy, because I'm always excited about episodes. I'm a generally excitable guy. Do you remember a few days ago when we chatted to Jeremy Kirkland?
I do. How could I forget?
Do you remember what we chatted about before we chatted to Jeremy Kirkland?
Before Jeremy Kirkland, your love for the great man, but also I think we snuck in a bit of chat around the Zenith Chronomaster Sport.
Yeah, one of the more, polarizing releases, of this
People
year.
took note, yeah.
Yeah. So this week we thought we would double down and get no less than Zenith CEO, Mr. Julian Tornare, to talk about the watch as well.
Wow, the man himself explaining it.
Yeah, so we'll have that chat in a sec. But before that, what have we got to do?
We have to take a quick break. Today's episode of OT the Podcast is brought to you by OT the Podcast. That's right, Felix. We're sponsoring our own episode today, which is very exciting, with something we've been working on for a little while now.
Yep.
Something.
Well, let me be clear. I have not physically been working on these. I have not been near the product, so don't worry about it.
You've done very little. But yeah, we've been working away at this for a couple of months now, and we're really excited to announce that we've got actually some OT the Podcast merch, but not merch in the common sense. We've done t-shirts, sure, but we've actually partnered with a few local guys here in Melbourne to bring it all together. So what we've got is 2 different t-shirt designs. They're available in a couple of different colours. Of course, we're going to link this up. But we've collaborated with a Melbourne streetwear store called First Product, based in Melbourne, like OT the Podcast. The owner, Nick, is someone I've known for a decade now. So really good guy. What started out with sort of, consultation in how we should make some really high quality t-shirts and other products and who we should turn to design just quickly turned into collaboration, as you know. And here we are. So Nick's advice was, get it printed in Melbourne, which we've also done. So we found a really high quality screen printer here. And we also found a really, really talented local Melbourne designer by the name of Marcos Diaz, who on Instagram is Diggable Goods. So it's kind of OT the Podcast, First Product, Diggable Goods all coming together. And the result is really, really cool, Felix.
Yeah, I think and when we say I've had nothing to do with it, that's a little bit of an understatement. You and I had some fairly epic discussions around what we should actually put on a T-shirt. Because I don't know about you, actually, I do know how you feel about this, but we didn't want to do like a watch dial or a handset or like a little reference to a classic mill sub, any of that sort of jazz, because that's out there and that's not us. So what is us on a T-shirt, Andy?
Well, what we thought would be really cool with that in mind, it's really easy to go down the route of sort of doing a cartoon watch dial or something, or just putting our logo on a T-shirt, and there's no point. So we thought it'd be really interesting to take the watch culture and the language around watch collecting and sort of some of these really interesting concepts that are super normal for, people that are into watches, premiums and
wait lists,
gem setting and wait lists. And this is really normal stuff that, it just becomes...
Yeah, it's the language of the community. Like, if I say, I paid 20 over, no wait list, something, got to flip it.
Well, it's the language, but it's also... just like it's accepted into the culture. You wait years and years and years for a watch you'll never get. People know that certain models have these huge premiums, and we thought, well, when you take it out of context is a little bit silly. And what we did was take it out of context and make it a little bit silly. So we've got these 2 designs, and the first one is we've applied this same sort of, concepts to a pancake shop. So we've got Hans's Pancakes, with a few flipping puns in there. And then we've got Primo Gelato with a few premium puns in there. And basically, it really, in a kind of lighthearted way, shines a light on some of these concepts that are very normal, but also very ridiculous. And overall, the designs are just really cool. So Marcos hit it out of the park. The quality is amazing.
You would not have to, it's not a watch T-shirt.
No.
Like if you rock up to some sort of get together with your mates and they're like, hey, I see what you're doing there, but you can walk down the street and no one's going to go, oh, you're wearing a little sneaky Rolex reference on your shirt.
I think the only way you're going to know is if you know OT the podcast and you see sort of in partnership with First Product and OT the podcast. That's the only way you'll be able to see, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we wanted as well. Like we didn't want to, again, like I said, slap our logo on something and just have it everywhere.
Yep.
That's not who we are. But the really cool thing here is, Felix, we're not handling shipping or logistics or even payment. That's all going through First Product. So what you'll be able to do from today, when this episode comes out, is place a pre-order for a t-shirt or 2 or 3 or 4. There are the 4 designs, and they're being made at the moment, so they'll be ready to ship in about 10 to 14 days. So call it 2 weeks. Free shipping domestically, so within Australia, and internationally, it's going to be $15.
Mm-hmm.
The t-shirts themselves are $69.95. Again, they're really high quality. It's done in collaboration with First Product. We've hit Marcos Diaz up for the design. So it's a really Melbourne-based project. And, when we started the idea 3 or 4 months ago now, because it has taken quite some time, it was really important to us to support some of these small local businesses, especially, around us that have had a tricky time. And so that's sort of the main benefit to us here. And, even chatting to Nick from First Product, getting stock and the logistics and being able to even get his regular supplies has been quite difficult at the moment because of the global pandemic, and even him getting his regular sort of stock into the shops been quite difficult. So we've been able to pump that up a little bit. So yeah, you'll be able to pre-order when they are produced. You'll be able to also go down to First Product if you live in Melbourne. First Product's in Hawthorn, so they're a really cool store to check out anyway. If you're into streetwear, Nick's an icon. If you are from anywhere in Melbourne, you probably know him if you've ever been interested in streetwear. So yeah, go check it out, and we will link all that up.
Yeah, link in show notes. Look, speaking for myself, I just can't wait to see him. I want to put one on. I want to walk around spruiking Rolex pancakes.
Hans's Pancakes, the finest in town. But that's enough of that, Felix. What do we got to do now?
Yeah, so we've first we've got to go to the link in our show notes and buy ourselves some t-shirts. But now we've got to speak to Mr. Julien Tornare. A few words on this. This is not your regular OT interview. I'm flying solo. I've taken the training wheels off, and it's just me chatting to Mr. Tornare. Because this is through sort of the LVMH Watch Week press tour, so you do a whole bunch of Zoom meetings, and this one we happen to record, so it's a little bit more to the point. Like there's we're not going to have a nice introduction at the start. It's just going to sort of cut in on a question, and the audios are might be a bit.
It's fun.
Oh, it's fine. You reckon it's fine?
People will work it out. Yeah, and I'm not there. I've taken a break. I've slept in on this one, which is
nice. Great. Actually, it was a late one. It was a late night given the time difference.
Even better.
But yeah, we chat about mostly the Chronomaster Sport, but also a little bit about the sort of strategic direction for Zenith and how they're waking up as a brand. And I think it's a really, really interesting discussion. But I don't think I should talk about it anymore. I think we should just get into it.
Let's do it.
Were you expecting so much of a fuss about your Chronomaster Sport?
No. Of course, we knew we were coming back with a very important segment within Chronomaster that people were expecting. All the travels I've done over the last 3 years, I had long discussion with retailers, end client, press, and all the players of the industry. And of course, we knew we had to come back in that segment, and we were clearly expected there. But no, in no way I expected the highlight we've had for the last week, because we launched it, we presented it Thursday a week ago at midnight in Switzerland. And I woke up on Friday morning, I had tons of emails and WhatsApps and stuff. And I remember the first one was a retailer in Asia telling me he sold 33 pieces. So I need to be nice with allocation. And I was laughing. And then it followed up with all the countries, So no, plus the reaction of the press, the messages from friends from the industry, from many brands. So no. It's been a great week. And I have to tell you, I'm happy for myself, for the brand, but I'm very happy for our team because they've been working hard on that. We didn't have, as everyone, an easy year last year. So it's really good to start like that. Yeah, start the year like this.
And obviously, so there's been a lot of discussion around the watch and its resemblance to other famous chronographs. What do you think about that discussion?
Oh, I'm very comfortable because, first of all, when you are in the watch industry, you know very well that the day you launch a square watch, they're going to compare you to square watches. You launch a chronograph, sporty, with a steel bracelet, you're going to be compared to these great brands. So whatever you launch, there's always this comparison. And the comparison here, if we speak about the Daytona that we've heard some, we are compared to the best brand of the world and to one of the most iconic watch of the world. So the comparison is we are flattered by that. But third and most important is that we have the full legitimacy. And I think this is something that your peers, your colleagues from all over the world, they've been recognizing that we are many told me we are the only brand that could launch such a product. If it came from other brands, people would have been like, okay, what are you doing? But for us, it's very simple. And my best response is often to pick up the watches we used at the very beginning in 2018 when we started to work on the product and say, you see, these are the watches we put on the tray. And when you look at the bracelet, when you look at the bezel, the 3 counters, we even added the 3-color counter, which is our signature. So you can be more Zenith than that. And that makes me, on top of being flattered to be compared to such a brand, I'm very comfortable because we are in our own house.
Exactly. And I think you're 100% right when you're talking about, if you make something that, has a single element from a popular watch, that those comparisons will be drawn. And I think that anyone that's been around watches for a little while will think that there isn't a single element that hasn't been borrowed or inspired or appropriated somewhere along the line. It's a small world, and everyone, sees the context in which they're in. How do you balance the tension between wanting to create something that's authentic to yourself or to your brand or to your heritage, but something that also represents what the market wants?
But again, the way we did this piece at the beginning, we took the historical one and we did really, we picked different elements from the 3 watches I have here, the Deluca, the A277, and the Rainbow, with my friend Romain, who's the head of product at Zenith. And it's really by gathering this, making some computer simulation, how the watch would like, that we said, okay, this is the watch. And my objective from the very beginning, I wanted people who know the brand, who know watchmaking, to immediately recognize that it's a Zenith, to immediately recognize that it's coming from our own history and heritage. But I also wanted to make a watch that would mean something appealing to a wider audience. Let's put it this way. We also launched this beautiful Chronomaster Revival Edition, which is the A385, great watch with the first gradient dial, ever made in the history in the 70s, and we relaunched it. It's great success. But between you and me, this is quite segmenting. People will love it. I mean, collectors are crazy about it. People looking for a vintage look type of watch, they love it. But it's not going to be a wide audience. If you compare today, the Chronomaster Sport is clearly a watch that, again, will be recognized by connoisseurs, but will also reach people who just want to have a nice, sporty look chronograph of quality that's casual, easily to wear, weekends with a suit, etc., etc. So that was really the objective. And the balance is important, you're right. But with that kind of watch, I think we clearly go for a quite wide audience,
And how important is that to you at the moment? I think you're right. For every one of those lovely revivals that you'll sell, you'll hopefully sell 10 or more of the Chronomaster Sports. How important is it for Zenith at the moment to have that mainstream, smash hit watch?
It's very important, and I'll give you a bit of where I come from with Zenith. When I joined the brand in 2017, As you remember, I was hired by Jean-Claude Biver, and Jean-Claude and the brand at that time was suffering from it was nicknamed the Sleeping Beauty. People called it's a bit dusty. It's very turned to the past. And it was a bit confusing, including the line Chronomaster, which had been such a famous one, in particular for the El Primero, but also for other watches. And we launched Defy. And Defy was like, wow, it's refreshing. It's 21st century. It's contemporary. Let's remove the dust. But many people at that time, they were scared that that Zenith would become Defy only. And it's never been my intention. But I needed time, and Defy gave me time to be able to work on Chronomaster and come back with Chronomaster is really what it's all about. And for me, when I worked on that, I decided around 2018, and I finished in 2019, that Chronomaster is about what? It's about revival, because this we started to do in 2019, and it's been a great success to relaunch pieces that are iconic from our past. It's about sporty casual watch like the Chronomaster Sport and the vintage models I showed you before. And the third one that you will see in a couple of months is a more classic approach. I would say Chronomaster must also be in a 3-counter, thinner, elegant watch, looking a bit like the A386, this kind of watch. And this evolution will be presented to you in a couple of months. That's obviously the historical model. So once we have that, I have my 2 strong pillars, and I can play between Chronomaster being the past and the present, and Defy being the present and the future. And I can have a lot of fun in Defy and create a lot of things. So I needed these to get together, and now I'm super happy because, of course, these launches should have happened in 2020. We postponed them for the reasons you imagine, but now there is no better way to start. And of course, I need to do business. I need to do volume with Chronomaster, because my objective is to have Defy and Chronomaster as the strategic line, probably doing 35% of the business, and then having Pilot on one side and Elite on the other side. That will be more, I would say, tactical product line. So it's very, now it's finally very clear. Yeah.
I wonder, given that it's sort of been referenced a few times, your other sort of historic sporty chronographs like the DeLuca, do you think we'll see references of the Chronomaster that are more directly inspired by those that sort of sit between the revival and the sport? Like, will you be exploring other parts of your sport heritage?
Yes. Felix, you are totally right. It's a great question. And for the last week, I've got so many messages on social media from collectors that I know, and they all ask, they all would like to see the DeLuca in a revival. They all would like to see the A277 or the Rainbow. So of course, revival is made for that. So I might do one day a DeLuca of today. That's for sure. And it will, in a way, these 3 watches were the inspiration and the roots of the Chronomaster Sport, which this one will be established strongly for the long term. But of course, revival needs to be fed every year, every couple of years, with a new highlight. So yes, we will. Absolutely.
Will we see that sort of stuff in the sport line, or will it be stuck? Will it be restricted to more of the revival watches?
No, it could be any of those. It could be. It could come from the sporty line or from the more elegant ones.
I just want to sort of bring it back a little bit to the Chronomaster Sport and the reaction to it, because honestly, that's what everyone's talking about. Like, and I found it very, very interesting, the amount of care that was taken in the presentation with Romain, and also the pre-recorded one earlier this week, that you were taking the point to really spell out the historical antecedents of this watch, like even sort of showing, that you'd used a folding clasp in the past.
Yeah.
Was that something you had planned, or did you sort of get those initial reactions from the release and go, oh shit, we have to maybe put some stuff together and clearly illustrate this legacy?
No, it was. It's something we have planned because it's not that it was made up. And again, when we started, the watch was looking quite different. We explored different directions. But what is true is that in 2018 with Romain, when we started, we put on a tray, and I told Romain and another woman we have in our team who is our historian and archivist, and she knows the history of Zenith like no one else. And I asked them, I said, put me on the tray all the watches that could be a sporty look of a Chronomaster in our heritage. And they brought these three on the table. And we looked at them, we say, okay, this is nice. This is a cool bracelet. For example, I remember a discussion we had between these two bracelets. The one from the Luca, and the one from that watch, which is the rainbow. And I really said, the rainbow one looks a bit, in my opinion, looks a bit too 80s. And I thought this one, we could work on making it more contemporary. So boom, we picked up this one. Then we look at the bezels, of course, and we said, okay, what do we need? We need a contrast. We need a black bezel. But of course, we're going to make it in ceramic. And we really took part after part of a watch, all the way through the dial before working on the movement. We did that together. So it was part of the process, and such an important launch. So anyway, we would have brought these watches on the table. It's clear that now if someone tells me, wow, what are you doing? Why are you coming with this chronograph like this, which looks like this and that brand? I say, you know what? Yes, it's a round sporty watch, but look where we're coming from.
And I don't think it's. I find it very interesting. Sort of this for me is sort of like the last piece of a puzzle, because you've been doing some really, really interesting stuff. The Defy has been such a strong line for you. It's, I think, got people to take attention to you again. Right. But also you've been doing some smart collaborative work, like you did that beautiful one-off piece with Phillips and Oral Backs. You've been doing some really interesting stuff with people like Bamford. Can you tell me a little bit about your strategy in terms of where you're trying to be in the market and how you're trying to get that attention? Yeah, for sure.
I had again, when I came on board with Jean-Claude Biver, it was all about DeFi, and I was like, okay, but let's not forget the past. And I wanted to find this right balance between the two. But more than anything, I wanted to bring back innovation in our brand. Again, we were seen as a bit old-fashioned and dusty, and it was not giving the right tribute to that brand, because it had been such an innovative brand from the founder, from the very beginning, through the 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. And the brand kind of lost this image and this momentum. So I said, okay, let's bring it back. And one of the highlights of my few years at Zenith was when I met the gentleman who made the El Primero. When we celebrated the 50th anniversary, I managed to get 8 of those around the table. The youngest was born in 45, the oldest in 1939. And they told me one thing that I'll never forget. They said, Julian, it's nice that you do revival and you give tribute to what we did, but let's not forget that when we made those watches and this movement, we were very innovative, very creative, startup spirit, whatever. So you need to continue this tradition as well. So it's easy. You need to play with what has been done, but you need to continue to create and find the right balance between the two. And now I have the 2 product line ready for this. I have the Chronomaster and I have the Defy. But if you are innovative and startup spirit, like I like to say, creative, you need to be not only with watches, but in everything. So when Biver Jean-Claude called me and say, why don't you go to personalized watches with George Bamford, coming from a very purist brand that I worked for a long time, I was like, no one is going to touch a Zenith. Zenith is us, our watchmaker. No one can touch it. I flew to London. I got to meet George. We sat for a couple of hours, and I changed my mind. Sometimes we can change our mind, because I realized that what he can bring in terms of perception, in terms of innovation spirit, and why we should always be narrow-minded in the watch industry. Let's try. And I actually signed this contract with him. We were the first brand to do it.
one last question.
Please.
Again, about that attention that you're now getting. What would you say to people who are not convinced by the Chronomaster Sport, who are a bit critical of your intentions? What would you say to them to try and change their minds?
I wouldn't really try to change their mind in a way, because I would explain why we've been doing this the way we discussed together. I would probably put these watches in their hands, because when you get these two watches, when you put these two watches at the same time, and I wish we were together in the same room, in your hands, honestly, if you have good intention in your mind, there is no discussion, absolutely no discussion. So I would probably do that. But at the end of the day, not everybody can like your watches, and I respect that as well. So I'm personally super comfortable with this. Trying to convince, I would explain, and then they make up their mind. I have no problem. I can understand. But what I'm very comfortable with is that we are creating a Zenith watches. Here we have physical proofs of where it's coming from. I can explain all the steps of the development of that watch. And after that, you like it, you don't like it, it's fine. We haven't really talked about the movement, but the common history. We used to supply this brand for 12 years for the Daytona, and now we bring this to a 1/10 of a second with also a very easy way to read, because we only talked about the aesthetic, but think about all those chronographs that are using 8,000 vibration per hour, which is 4 hertz. Or even 3 hertz with 21,600. You basically show the 1/8 or the 1/6 of a second.
Yeah.
In terms of measurement of time, this one shows the 1/10 of a second. This is what you use when you measure a runner or a car race or whatever. So even in chronometry, in purely chronometry, we are really showing such expertise that not other brands are showing at the moment. And I think that's also important.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Julian. It's been a pleasure to see you, and hopefully maybe this year, maybe next year, we can see each other in real life.
Yeah, I would love. Thank you, Felix, for your time as well. And I was supposed to come to Australia last year, so hopefully I can make it this year.
Well, Felix, that was quite the chat for me to miss, but it was interesting to listen to. I'm always a little bit skeptical when you get these heads of brands on. You never know if they're going to say what they really think or answer these tough questions.
Well,
I really liked your questions. You put it to him, and it was interesting to hear him explain the mindset and the methodology around the Chronomaster. So I can respect that.
I think, you're never going to get what they really think, because they're the CEOs of major global companies, and
that's true.
Their job is to have a message and be on it. And sometimes you get a bit more, sort of real talk from them. But it's always they're always tricky interviews to do, because they're usually quite sort of scripted and guarded. Especially like if you consider that interview with Mr. Tornare, he would have been doing 10 or 20 in a row. So. He's a machine at that time of the year. So I think that was really good. What did you think about what he had to say, though?
I mean, like I said in the episode with Jeremy Kirkland, I wasn't 100% sold on the idea of going after a watch like the Chronomaster that resembled the Daytona so much. Sort of hearing why they did it. Obviously, they knew what they were doing. It wasn't a surprise to them that it would be compared. It was refreshing to hear him just address that and say, look, if anyone can do it, we can. And that's sort of why we've done it. And I respect that. Sure.
I think the other huge thing is we need 2 pillars. Defy is great, but we need something else. And this is what people want. We can sell it, legitimately.
And the thing about being, the most famous for their movement as well, wanting to move beyond just a movement, I think is really important and quite a powerful thing to say.
Well, I think we're probably going to stop talking about the Zenith Chronomaster Sport for a hot minute now. But first, thank you so much to Julian Tornare for agreeing to speak, and also to Sam from Zenith Australia for putting that together. And I think we've also got to thank your mate Nick and the whole and Marcos
crew.
and First Product.
Yeah, the whole crew. We have to thank Nick, First Product. Go check it out. Make sure you check that link out. It's a really good way to support us, and Nick from First Product and Marcos from Diggable Goods. And yeah, thank you so much.
As always, otthepodcast@gmail.com. If you want to email us, ot.podcast on Instagram. If you want to, share our content, which we always appreciate. Thank you so much to Major Tom Media for producing the show. And if you like OT the podcast, if you're a big fan of Zenith, or if you like streetwear, subscribe, tell your friends, or review us on iTunes, review us on Google Play, and just word of mouth that. Tell your family.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.